right, so we're going to get started. So again, my name is Kylie Morgan, and I'm from Plug in America. Today, we're going to be going through our goals for National Drive Electric Week 2019, as well as the tips and resources that the national organizers Plug in America, Electric Auto Association, and Sierra Club offers to all of our event organizers and volunteers. We'll also go over some tips on how to get local sponsorships, and we have a couple of guest speakers who will hopefully provide some valuable insight on how to best organize your events. Also at the end, there will be time for questions and answers. So if you have any questions, please use the control panel please use the control panel and use the questions tab. You can type in any questions you have there, and at the end of the webinar, we'll look at those, read them aloud, and answer them for the whole audience. All right, so our presenters today are myself. I'm a program coordinator here at Plug in America. We also have Hugh Lee from Sierra Club. And our guest speakers are Terry Travis, president and founder of EV Hybrid Noir. EV Hybrid Noir focuses on EV education and advocacy to increase EV exposure and adoption to diverse communities. He was the city captain for National Drive Electric Week Atlanta, which was one of the largest EV events in the Southeast. And then our other guest speaker is Barry Kresh, who is a board member of the Connecticut EV Club. He has also been involved in numerous EV events and also participates in the organization's advocacy efforts. All right, so to get started, for those of us who are unfamiliar with National Drive Electric Week, National Drive Electric Week is a national campaign and international as well. It involves many event organizers from all 50 states organizing EV displays and large festivals, in some cases, around EV education. So as national organizers, Plug in America, Sierra Club, and the Electric Auto Association provide all of our event organizers with an online event page, free printed materials, and other online resources such as this webinar, as well as templates, other templates which we'll go over later in this webinar. National Drive Electric Week is open to anyone who wants to organize an electric vehicle event, display, or other educational even presentation is welcome to participate and register their event on our website, driveelectricweek.org. As you can see, the event has grown substantially over the years. In 2017, we had 276 events. Last year, we went up to 321, along with more than 10,200 test drives and rides. This year, our goal is to reach 350 events in 315 cities, and again, reach all 50 states. We're also hoping to get lots of media hits this year and have over 11,000 test drives and rides. Another big focus of ours every year is to engage public leaders. Many of our events do a great job of reaching out to their local public officials, inviting them to the event to speak or even just to attend. So we're hoping people will again do that this year. As of today, we have 125 events on the map, which is a great number. Again, we're hoping to reach all 50 states, and so hopefully this webinar will help increase that number. All right, I'm going to pass it on to Hugh from Sierra Club.
Hi, everyone. This is Hugh Lay. I'm the campaign representative with the Sierra Club. So I wanted to go over what sort of the main event features are for a Drive Electric event. Starting off is one of our most popular features, which are our ride and drives, which give people the opportunity to test drive electric vehicles and to see firsthand the many benefits and the technological capabilities that they have. So one of the things that you can do is you can contact your local dealers to see if they can provide an electric vehicle for people to test drive. You can also ask local EV owners to bring their cars, talk about owning an EV, and maybe even drive people around in them as well. Having conversations with EV owners is a really, really useful tool for folks to engage, learn about the great experience that people have owning an electric vehicle, and also answering any of the questions that that attendees may have as well. These folks are really good resource for your event and can help keep up the engagement as people pass through, even if they're not registered to attend. The other thing you can do is have a film viewing or panel discussion. Many people know very little or nothing about EVs, so you can include a short PowerPoint presentation about EVs featuring popular topics like charging an EV, the basic technology of an EV, and regenerative braking. Also consider showing an EV-related film, such as Who Killed the Electric Car? These are some of the other event features as well, which include a ribbon cutting ceremony. This you can connect your local officials and see if there's an opportunity for them to begin your event with an EV policy announcement or the ribbon cutting for a new charger installed in your community. We'll have more information on this topic later, but for now, you can start doing some research regarding if there's been any new updates within your local community that you can tie a ribbon cutting event to. Exhibitor booths. So the EV community is obviously more than just vehicles, but bringing in a much more broader coalition of environmental efforts. So solar panel companies, organizations, other organizations that care about clean air or sustainability, and local businesses that might be interested in participating in your event. They can sponsor your event and have a booth. And sort of diversifying and having more people be a part of your event, you can gain more attraction and more people to come through. For private and public fleet displays, you can bring other sorts of electric vehicles or electric tools as well, such as bikes, motorcycles, or buses. So if your city has a fleet of EVs, like the police EV in this photo, consider contacting them and asking them to participate in your event. Some school districts have EV electric buses available as well, so that's another avenue where you can contact your local schools to see if they let you use them. Again, so these are just some of the bullet points that we just highlighted. So electric bus rides, school bus displays. You can also have live music, local food trucks, workshops to educate people at your event, organizing panels and speakers on various different topics related to electric vehicles, featuring public officials, again, tying in a ribbon cutting with other sorts of community sort of announcements or updates that tie in to EVs, having city proclamations, which I'll get into a little later, and also policy announcements that can also be unveiled as well. So we have some resources here at your disposal. So the first one is the Electric Driveway Party Guide. So if you just follow this link, it will take you there, and you can sort of see all the other resources that we have ready for at your disposal. For event organizers, you can go to our Drive Electric Week website, and in the resources tab, there will be lots of free materials that we offer for city captains in the United States, which includes free printed materials as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and this is Kylie, just to add here. So the Electric Driveway Party Guide is specifically for people who are maybe organizing an event for the first time. And if you just own an EV and want to invite your neighbors to come over and learn more about electric vehicles, that's a good small way to get started, and you can certainly register that event on the website. And so there's just some tips for doing something small like that with that link. And for the free printed materials, that is something that we ship to event organizers who request one for free. It has to be within the US, and we'll have more details on that later via email. So if you haven't already registered an event, you'll get a notification via email when you have an opportunity to order those materials. All right.
Perfect. So how can you increase the impact of your event? So some of the steps that we have starts with inviting and encouraging local elected officials to attend your event. I'll dive into that in the next slide, which has a template that you can use to invite these elected officials. The second is to really highlight sort of our model EV policy toolkit, which basically compiles all the different EV policies from the state and federal incentives down to local utility policies and other sort of consumer education and awareness policies. This is something that you can hand to your local elected officials or other organizations to promote and accelerate EV adoption in your community. The third thing is you can find a local electric auto association chapter. So by going to their website, you can join a group. First of all, you can find a local electric auto association chapter in your area, and you can join a like-minded group of EV enthusiasts. It's free and open to everyone, and you don't even need to own an electric vehicle to join. And they have events year-round that you can participate in and also help promote awareness as well. The fourth thing you can do is organize an electric vehicle display at a local Earth Day event for Drive Electric Earth Day, which we had last month, our first annual one. So yeah.
Great. And Hugh, did you want me to change the screen over to you to?
Yes.
Okay. Will do.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, good to go. Thank you.
Okay.
And you should be able to check the audience view. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so this is our Achieve Model State and Local Policies that we've compiled working in our partners with Plug-in America. You'll notice here as we scroll down that we sort of compile all the different incentives that can help consumers save money through rebates and tax incentives. So for instance, in California, you can receive up to $2,500 for a purchase of an EV or plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. New York, the Drive Clean rebate offers up to $2,000 for the purchase or lease of an EV with a battery capacity of at least 4 kilowatt per hours. We have much more down at the bottom as well, such as electrifying some of our public fleets, our transit fleets as well. And also using the Volkswagen settlement funds for electric bus adoption, expanding charging access, and sort of looking at what different municipalities have done, such as in Atlanta, Georgia, the city council passed an ordinance which will require all new residential homes and public parking facilities to accommodate EVs. So this is just a toolkit that we have that you can print out, give away to other partner organizations or to even the policymakers that you do invite to attend your National Drive Electric Week event. The second thing I wanted to show you all was finding a local electric auto association chapter near you. So by going to their website here, you can go to chapters and then click chapter map. And you'll see here a list of all 50 states, including Canada. And you can click on a state, for instance, California, and you can find all the lists of the chapters in that state. And by clicking on it, you'll get more information, such as the contact information of the chapter leader or president, and also their website as well. So you can ask to join and be a member and participate in their year-round events. So yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you so much, Hugh. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go to the next slide.
Perfect. Yeah, so this kind of goes back to what we were saying with our invitations to your local elected officials. So we've got a template here for you to utilize. And what you see here is that in the yellow, all you would have to do is replace that with information specific to your event and your community. Having elected officials attend can drive more attention and potential media coverage of your local event, while also creating further engagement. So to find this template, all you would have to do is go to our National Drive Electric Week site, go to the resources page, and in the additional resources, there's this files button. And then once you click there, go down onto local support, and you'll find this template, which then you can curate to your local event and community. Another thing you can do is you can work with these local elected officials to have them declare National Drive Electric Week in your city. As through a proclamation. We've have examples here from Governor Inslee of Washington, Malloy of Connecticut, Sununu of New Hampshire, and Murphy of New Jersey, who've issued National Drive Electric Week proclamations for their states. In Hamden, Connecticut, which held its first ever National Drive Electric Week event, had a proclamation signed by the Hamden Mayor, Kurt Lang. So these are some of the things that you can do to create more awareness and to drive more attention to your event as well, while also promoting mass EV adoption awareness in your community.
All right, thank you, Hugh. I'm gonna take it over from here. And before we go on, I just want to start a poll or launch a poll. So when I launch this for all of our attendees, if you fill it out, it'll take you to a different screen, but as soon as you submit it, you'll come right back to the webinar. So don't be alarmed, it takes you to a different window. Great, looks like mostly event organizers today, as expected, although I'm happy to see a lot of people here on the webinar just curious about NDEW. Right, we have 80% voted, just waiting for a few more people. All right, so I'm going to close the poll. Thank you so much for participating. This really helps us gauge, who's on these webinars and who finds them useful. All right, so today one thing we're going to go over is the various functions on your online event page. Whether you have an event registered on the website or not, hopefully this will be helpful to show you, just what you can do with the event page. All right. And so now you should see the National Drive Electric Week website. So for anyone who wants to register an event, you would just go to the volunteer tab. Now, I'm already logged in, so it shows me events in my area. But if you weren't logged in, it would ask you to give your name and email, and then provide your city, state, and zip code. And once you did that, it would show you events in your area. And then if you wanted to volunteer, you can view those events and register to volunteer on the page. Or you can go all the way down to this button here that says register to organize a new event. And you would click that, fill out the form, and then we receive your request to organize a new event. And we would approve it, and you'd be notified via email. For those of us who already have event pages, you would just go to your account tab after you log in. And then you can click on your event that you registered. In this case, my example is Los Angeles. So one important feature of every event page is the View Page As feature. Here you can view your page as the public, a volunteer, or a city captain. This is helpful because you can see what the public sees, and then also you can actually see what contact information of yours is available to your volunteers. So if you approve someone to be a volunteer, they will be able to see your email address and phone number, and so you can just confirm that by choosing to view the page as a volunteer. Next is the Notes for City Captain section. This is an important section to check back on every week. Here you'll see important updates such as when we have a webinar, there might be a link to it here. When you're able to order your free printed materials, you also will see a link to do that here. And then when your event is over, again, you'll see a link to submit your final event report in this box. All right, and then if we go all the way down the page to the Update Event section, this is where any city captain or event organizer can update their hours, location, and other information. You can also, if you scroll down to the event description, you can add text, format that text. You can also add pictures, and you can even add your own HTML if that's easier for you. And then we have the event options section. Here, you may have noticed at the top of the page that there was a list of registered vehicles. So whenever an attendee registers to attend your event, they are asked if they own an EV and what that EV is. And then it automatically appears in your list of registered vehicles. However, you can control what vehicles are listed there. So you can choose to display only owner vehicles, only dealer vehicles, or all, or only selected vehicles. If you choose to display only selected vehicles, the way to do that would then to go up to your list of participants and attendees and just use the pencil button next to any attendee's name. When you click this button, it takes you to the attendee record, and then you can edit it, and you can check mark this box that says selected, chosen attendee, or vehicle, and then submit changes. And what that would do is it would make sure that their vehicle is displayed in this list of vehicles at the top of your page. And this list of vehicles would be viewable by the public. Okay, so going back down to event options, you can also change the list of your registered electric vehicles, or change the title of it, sorry, to any of these options here. Next, if you would like to ask attendees if they want to share their EV experience or show their electric vehicle, or even offer rides in their EV, you can check mark these boxes. What happens when you check mark this box is that attendees have an opportunity to opt in to share their experience, show their vehicle, or offer rides when they register to attend. And you can actually test that by check marking the box, scrolling down to press Update Event, and then just pressing the RSVP button at the top of the page and kind of pretending to be an attendee, and you'll see that they have that option to opt to share or show their EV. One thing to note, if you're asking people if they want to give rides in their electric vehicle, is to please read the information about insurance and liability here. When people give rides in their electric vehicles, it's their personal vehicle and their personal insurance will be involved in that. If you have any questions, my email will be at the end and you can email me about that. And perhaps the most important feature is the feature to request attendee email addresses. So right when you create your event page, the most important thing to do is put a group here, the name of a Facebook group, an EV group, or a mailing list that you want attendees to be able to opt into. So when you put the name of the group there, and again, it's not a link, it would just be the name of your group, you would select Update Event. And what happens is when attendees register for the event, they can then check mark a box that says they want to opt in to this group, and that would allow you to see their email address. So it's important that you do this right when you register your event, because attendees can only opt into your group as when they register for your event. So they can't go back and do it if they've already registered. All right, and finally, one more feature is just handling volunteers and other city captains. So I scrolled up here to the volunteer management section. Here you can manage people who have registered to volunteer. You can assign them as a city captain or as a volunteer. If you assign them as a city captain, they will have all of the same privileges as you to edit the event description and event details and message attendees. If you don't choose to assign them as a volunteer because you don't have room or just don't need any help, please be sure to message them, just to thank them for offering. Right, and one more feature is that you can actually message all of your attendees, whether or not you have their email address. You would just choose, for example, if we want to message everyone, choose the all link. So you can choose which groups of people you want to message. For example, you can choose to message everyone who are plug-in drivers. And for example, if you want them to line up at a certain area at your event, you can let them know that. And if they respond back to your message, you'll actually be able to see their email address, because they will get this message from the email address associated with your account. Okay, going back to the presentation now. All right, so next we're going to go over local sponsorships. Events, as we all know, are not free, especially if you want it to be a big festival and have multiple exhibitors. So one thing we encourage people to do is reach out to local businesses for sponsorships. Even though the Nissan Leaf, Clipper Creek, and the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project are all national sponsors of National Drive Electric Week, that does not mean that you can't invite other people to sponsor your local event. So you can invite any automaker or any other company, even charging company, to locally sponsor your individual event. Some things that sponsors can provide are an event space. They can also promote your event via email, print ads, or social media. They can contribute funds that cover the cost of permits, or they can also give in-kind donations, such as food or raffle prizes. One thing to tell your sponsors is that you can offer them a lot of logo and brand visibility. When you promote your event on social media, you can tag them, mention them in text, and even add their logo to your social media posts. You can also put their logo and text mention of their sponsorship on banners and posters. And you can even do announcements at your event thanking them. Also, a big benefit to a lot of sponsors is having a really nice booth at your event. So if you have a sponsor or are looking for some, show them the layout of your event. Help them visualize this is where your booth will be. You'll be right at the entrance and all the attendees will see you right when they walk in. That's a big draw for a lot of sponsors. And for dealerships, they are really interested in potential customer leads. So if your event is on a Saturday and it's part of a larger farmers market or other festival, let them know that there's a lot of potential customer leads if they come and display their vehicle or offer the vehicle for test drives or rides. And that may even be true for other companies, but it's especially true for dealerships. All right, and now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Terry Travis.
Good afternoon. Can you hear
me? Hi,
me?
thanks for joining. Yes, we can hear you all right. Thank you.
Hey. So would you like for me to start Sure. How would you like?
Yes, go ahead and start. I believe one topic we're going to go over is if you invite media to your event, how to help them frame the events properly.
Yeah, sure. That's definitely something that you want to be mindful of, and it's critically important. I would suggest highly that if you are programming an event, particularly in a large or major market, that you create a press release or media alert and be mindful as the city captain or organizer and staff, make them mindful that if media arrives, that you should have a designated person that they communicate with. In producing some of these events, we've seen media show up and literally, walk around and talk to people, but not really grasp the full scope of the event and or its intent. So it's really important to be able to craft and drive that narrative the way you want it to be. So again, I would say having that media alert on hand and on site and having one designated person that the media talks to is critical and key.
Great, thank you. And do you have any tips as an organizer, maybe other like outreach that really helped get attendees to your event, or even some things that worked well at your Atlanta event?
I would say, depending on where the event is, what works well for us is building relationships. And so what happens is that if you build relationships throughout the course of the year, when if you attend other events and or if you support other sustainable efforts, when you have an event, hopefully those folks will support you as well. But in having that media alert, making sure that you're on different community calendars, making sure that you are pushing your messaging out in a really comprehensive way, touching various touch points in the community, whether that is reaching out to the local Sierra Club or any other sustainable organization in your market. But creating those touch points and relationships, I would say, is what's most critical to the success of your National Drive Electric Week event.
All right, great, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we move on? And of course, I'm sure we might have some questions for you at the end during Q&A.
Sure, I would just say one of the things that I'd like to add is that I think that one of the things that I'd like to see personally is a bit more diversity in the National Drive Electric Week event. So in order to achieve that, you have to be very purposeful in reaching out to diverse communities. And so I think that as as the electrification space begins to grow and change, you'll see some of this organically, but at the point that we're at now, I think that city captains and organizers should be very purposeful in making sure that they do some outreach to diverse groups.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right. Okay, and then we have our next guest speaker. So Barry, do you want to go ahead, take it away?
Sure. Thanks for the photo montage, Carly.
Oh, no problem.
So I'm with the Electric Vehicle Club of Connecticut. We're an independent club. We're not part of the EAA, although we do like them. And we evangelize for EV adoption. We conduct educational events. We do advocacy. Terry's point about diversity and relationships are really key, and we try and work with politicians and opinion leaders throughout the state. The other thing that we have found to be an interesting challenge is that Of course, we're all focused on EVs as part of the bigger picture of climate change, and we want to leave a healthy planet for those who come after us. But yet, most of the people in our club are over the age of 40. So reaching out to young people is also something that requires a special focused effort in order to engage them. Young people today are pretty heavily programmed, and it can be hard to get their attention. We try and keep all of our audiences in mind when we do an event. We've talked about some of them here: press, state and local politicians, consumers, of course, opinion leaders, and importantly, the whole digital side of this. Obviously, activity on social media. For us as a club, which has predominantly older members, I would say Google is more important than social media. So create content. If you have a website, make sure it's well populated, make sure the metadata are properly filled out. And we have found that a lot of people who just kind of give us a quick walk by during one of our showcases will reach out to us later, and we want them to be able to find us easily, to be able to look at the information about the event and to have a way to contact us. A couple of specific things I would like to talk about when staging an event. One of them is location. Because EVs have to be outside, because they have to be in a parking lot, it's easy to find yourself in a situation where, especially if you're partnering with another organization, where you end up kind of off to the side and you're not part of the traffic flow, and that you end up spending a couple of hours just talking to yourselves. So when you're organizing the event, it is really important to map where physically the event will be, where you will be in relation to other aspects of the event, and importantly, parking areas. Usually what we try and do is situate ourselves between the main parking area and the other part of the event, so that at least people have to walk by us and see us, and then it's up to us to get their attention. In the case of the National Drive Electric Week, we're partnering with Sustainable Fairfield, so that's the Green Task Force of one of the towns in our geography, and we'll be holding the event at a recently constructed solar carport where there's a cluster of charging stations, and it's right next to an athletic complex and a shopping area. So that was kind of how we approached some of the issues that you have heard described earlier, such as where to situate yourself and how to contextualize EVs, because it's all part of decarbonizing the grid and upgrading to smart grids and all of those other pieces of the puzzle that we want to put into place. The other point that I wanted to make was about getting people engaged. So there are pictures from a couple of events here. On the bottom one, where you see the checkered flags, this was from an EV road rally that we had, and the person waving the flag who's facing toward us is the first selectman of the town where the event was held. So involving the politicians in participating in the event, if you can do it beyond just speaking, is really helpful. And doing this has just created a lot of goodwill with the town and better cooperation with the police department and fire department if we need it. In the upper right, you see a parking lot setting where we had a recent event. This was not a Drive Electric Week event. It was a maker fair that's held locally, and it's a big deal here. They get between 10 and 15,000 people. And here we were again faced with that location challenge issue, because the main event is held in a large tent, and we can't be in the tent. We would have to drive over steps and sculptures and other obstacles to get there. So we needed to find a place that was near the event that we could control. And we found this parking lot, small parking lot. We had good control of the area, and the parking lot was located between the main parking area and the main exhibition tent. So we had people walking by us all day. And the challenge from there was to get their attention. And there were a few ways we did it at this event and at other events. The top left picture of the Riker electric vehicle is one way, where we just happen to be fortunate enough to have a club member who's an antique car dealer. And so we've had some of his antique EVs at some of our shows. And that generates curiosity. It also helps to demystify the vehicles, because most people don't know that EVs preceded ICE cars. And that, I forget when the tide started to tip, but around until about 1910 or so, I think the majority of automobiles on the road were electric. We have in the parking area that you can see, where we had good control over it, we had enough room that we could use the summon feature on the Tesla cars. So what we would do is, when families would walk by, we would approach the kids and we would say, "Hey, do you want to drive a Tesla?" And the kids would be excited, and we would put them in the driver's seat, and we would summon the car 15 or 20 feet, and then return it back to its parking space. And so the kids would be having fun, and they would be laughing, and that would cause the parents to loosen up, and we would end up just having a good conversation with people about the experience of driving electric. Of course, when the kid got out of the car, they would say, "Daddy, can you buy me one of these?" And
Very nice.
We'll hope that they'll continue to say that. We have worked with local schools. We had a relationship with an environmental science teacher at a local high school, and he would recruit volunteers for us from the kids in his classes, and then they would bring their friends. So that was one of the ways we could get younger people out to the events. We also, although you can't see it in this photo, but in behind the cars there was a space where we had local high school bands. So music was mentioned earlier in the presentation as a way to make the event more lively. We specifically try to get high school bands, again, because we want young people and their friends will come. We just have to make sure the music isn't too loud and it can't be continuous, because we do have to talk to people. But that is a nice way to complement an event. And then the other thing is headline-worthy items. So you've heard words about policy and other kinds of announcements. We did a ribbon cutting at the largest charging cluster in the state, 29 charging stations. We did something around the arrival of the first Model 3 in the state. GM trucked in a version of the Gen 2 Chevy Volt before it was street legal. So we do those kinds of things which are of interest to the EV community. It's harder to find things that are of interest to a broader community, and that's, I think, a challenge that we all face. We've been in touch with a graduate student who is trying to fundraise for a project that involves driving an EV around the world. So clearly, this is someone who does not have range anxiety. But we told him that if he can make Connecticut part of his route, we'll build one of our events around his time in the state, and we think it will be press friendly and just something that's a little different than what you often see at EV showcases.
And Barry, what you were saying about kind of organizing the event around a ribbon cutting or other significant event reminded me that that's also a good way to get press to your event. You know, if you reach out to your local public official and they're installing a charging station and your event's around the ribbon cutting, press is more likely to show up to that than just an EV event on its own. So also another advantage there. And in addition to hopefully attracting the public to a, exciting community event.
That's true. In terms of who the official presenter is, it's fairly easy to get a mayor. It's a little bit harder, but not that hard, to get a state representative or a state senator. It can be quite challenging to get a governor, but it's sometimes doable. But an overlooked class of officials that you can usually get is somebody senior at the Department of Energy or Environmental Protection.
Okay, great.
Really working it.
All right, thank you. Well, we have to move on to the next two slides just because of time, but thank you so much, Barry. Okay, so we're on our last slide. So this is the opportunity for questions. If anyone has any, you can ask a question of any of our speakers, or just in general. All right. And it looks like we have one question here. So the question we have is, are electric vehicles other than cars encouraged to participate? The answer is yes. Electric scooters and bikes are often a big draw for people. You can also get your local biking community, more involved in your event if you showcase electric bikes. So as long as, electric bikes and scooters are welcome. As far as hybrids, our rule is that we'd like all electric vehicles at the event to have a plug. So you can present plug-in hybrids, but we try to stay away from hybrids without a plug.
And we hope to have trucks. They're just not really around yet, but Rivian will be upcoming in a year or so.
And then we have another question. Do you have suggestions on how to get vehicles for events outside major cities? In small towns and more rural areas, dealers don't have EVs in showrooms, and an EV club is not statewide. And so this is a question for all of our presenters, if anyone has any ideas.
I would suggest that the answer lies in relationships. In Connecticut, we have the EV Coalition. That's how I came to be connected with the Sierra Club, but it involves 28 organizations, and it's a way to meet a lot of people in the community. Facebook, there are EV clubs all over the place on Facebook. Some of them are by the brand, some of them are by the locality. It's just it's a matter of working harder to do that. Also, the Electric Auto Association is a resource for connecting people.
Yeah, one thing to note is, organizations like EV Hybrid Nor, the Electric Auto Association, even if they don't have an official chapter in your area, their members might just know someone in the area who's willing to bring their EV and show it. I know also when I recently organized an EV display in Savannah, Georgia, and I got a lot of people just by registering the event on the website, so people knew it was there. And I also worked with community partners in Florida and Georgia to direct people to the website on driveelectricweek.org. And so I found people who actually sometimes drove from 30 minutes outside of the event just to display their vehicle, which was really, really amazing. All right. And the next question is, for a ride and drive event, any ideas on promotional giveaways? My tip here would be anything that is of interest to your local community. And just thinking about collaboration, it might be a good idea to give away something from a local business. That might be a good incentive for them to sponsor your event, or even just have a booth at your event to provide more activities for attendees. So you can offer, maybe they can offer to give a few of their items away. If they make handmade candles, maybe they give away a few of those, and they also have a booth at your event. So it makes it more interesting.
And sponsors, if it's a company of any size, will often have premiums because they use them for other shows.
Great. All right. And next question is, have you ever invited financial companies to attend? That is a great question. Plug in America has actually started doing that at our events. we recently invited a credit union to one of our events, specifically so that people can ask questions about insurance or loans for EVs. I think that's a great idea. When thinking about organizing your event, think about a consumer that knows nothing about electric vehicles, buying them, getting them insured, or charging them. And so try to have a representative for each of those interests at your event so that people can walk away feeling like they have all the information they need to buy an EV.
Yeah, we've been engaged in conversations with a few auto insurers about some of our upcoming events and programs. So I agree. I think that that's a very good strategy to have.
Oh, great. Do you know, have any of them offered like special deals at their event just for that event or anything like that?
No, I think that the conversations that we've been having basically revolve around this being a new area for most insurers. And so as the mobility space changes, they're looking at how are they going to respond to this. And, if you look at electric vehicles and particularly if you look at some of the more higher end vehicles, it's a new space with new variables that some of the insurance companies have been looking into because they want to, some of the ones that we've been talking to want to be first to the space to really emphasize that they're here for electric vehicles and to make themselves, fully engaged in this green, sustainable movement. But typically what happens is that they'll send out the local agent, but now we're having conversations with them about sending their marketing team and creating a specific initiative around electric vehicles.
Awesome, thank you. And that's actually maybe a good selling point if you're inviting companies to your event, is that they're talking to owners and getting their name out there. So, all right.
We had a credit union reach out to us because they offer discounted loan rates for any clean energy thing that you want to finance, whether it's solar or buying an EV or geothermal, whatever. So they're out there.
Awesome, thank you. All right, and last question is, someone noted that they had trouble capturing attendee cell numbers. And so even if you use the feature we talked about on this webinar to capture attendee email addresses, that doesn't give you access to their cell phone numbers. It's limited to their email addresses because, again, we want to protect the privacy of our attendees and making sure that they're only providing their email address if they opt in to your group. But also, if you use the messaging feature on the online event page, it sends an email to the attendees from your email address, and when they respond, you'll be able to see their email and communicate that way. And that was the last question. So we are recording this webinar, and we'll post a link to both the webinar and the slides on driveelectricweek.org on the resources page. We'll also send out an email blast with a link to the recording and some more information about our guest speakers. Thank you so much for everyone who attended, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You guys have a great day as well.
Thank you, Callie, and everyone else.